Hey guys, welcome back to Rewind Stop Fast Forward. I'm Jordan, and this is my review for Zombieland Double Tap, the sequel to Zombieland, once again directed by Ruben Fleischer and starring Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg, and Abigail Breslin. So stay tuned for the review. As much as I kind of hoped, Zombieland Double Tap is unfortunately a disappointing sequel. It is a sequel that is late on arrival. It's something that people kind of had been asking for a long time, but then they finally got around to making it, and after all this time, unfortunately, it's not as good or anywhere near as good as the original film. At least for me, it wasn't. And there are many reasons why I feel this way, but primarily I think the biggest problem with Zombieland Double Tap is that it's not a particularly funny movie, and I think that the comedy here really falls flat a majority of the time. Overall for me, there's only a handful of moments that the comedy actually landed and actually made me laugh. As an extension of that, the cinema I was in personally, I barely heard any actual laugh out loud moments. The cinema was primarily quite silent, which is, for a comedy, not a good thing. And especially for me, it's not a good thing at all. And it's not a movie that I found, as I said, funny. But I think one thing that they did get right, for sure, with this movie is that it does feel like a continuation of the original. And I think all the characters, and all the actors, did a really good job of inhabiting the characters and sort of going forward in time, and they still felt very much the same. There's nothing too drastically different between Zombieland and Zombieland Double Tap, which is a good thing. And I think that the banter and the chemistry is still there, and that still works really well here. But as I said, I think the script and the dialogue that in particular that the actors had to work with wasn't as strong or anywhere near as strong as the original Zombieland film. Also added to the cast is a kind of handful also of new characters, some of which are more cameos, others got larger, more fleshed out roles, all of which have been shown in the trailer anyway, so it's not like I'm kind of revealing anything specifically. Obviously, of the new additions, you got Luke Wilson's there, Rosario Dawson, you've got and Zoe Dutch, for instance, and all of them do a good job in the movie. But I think that they're really there just for a few laughs, and that's pretty much it. They don't really add a whole lot to the movie, and especially there's Zoe Dutch's character and there's a stoner character in this movie, and both of them I feel are quite cartoonish. At least I'm not saying that the film is particularly realistic, but those characters in particular feel quite cartoonish within the movie, and they feel a bit out of place because they're just too over the top. The two characters, they're very archetypal characters that they're inhabiting. So you got the stoner and kind of a dumb blonde, but they really crank that up to 100, and they're incredibly over the top, and noticeably as they're cartoonish because of it. Going back to some of the negatives of the film, though, one, I think the pacing overall, it feels a bit kind of all over the place. I feel like there are moments that are really drawn out, especially kind of getting into the plot of the movie. I feel like it takes a while for the movie to actually get going, and it doesn't help that, as I said, because the humor doesn't really land a lot. It just kind of it really struggles to kind of get on its feet. I feel like most of the good moments within the film are kind of later on in the kind of second half of the movie, so the first half feels like it drags a lot more. Another noticeable element of the film for me is that the film actually looks kind of cheap in a lot of places. There are exterior shots of buildings, in particular the White House is in this movie, for instance, but they use CGI to obviously give a scope to show that the White House is all run down and it's the future and it's the apocalypse, but those exterior shots feel very cheap and feel very made for television level of budget rather than movie budget. So those moments, they're little moments and they're probably more nitpicks, but definitely took me out of the movie, for me at least. In terms of other positives, I have most of the action sequences within the film work quite well. They feel visceral. The camera moves and it's not super close up all the time. It gives you a good scope of what's happening. which is always good. So I feel like most of the action's filmed quite well. You know, I enjoyed that part of the film, kind of kept me entertained, which is always good. Whether I recommend to go see this, it's kind of hard. I don't personally think it's worth watching in cinemas. I think it's definitely something you could check out when it comes out to rent or to buy on Blu-ray. I think you might get some enjoyment out of it, but I just think that overall, between the humor really missing majority of the time, the fact that the film just kind of slogs along and doesn't really do a whole lot. I don't think the story is particularly interesting, and it just really doesn't do a whole lot with its, you know, potential premise. And as a sequel to Zombieland, I just don't think it really gives you enough to sort of warrant having it as a sequel. I mean, obviously, picking it back up, it definitely follows on really well with the characters. I mean, they all feel very much the same as they did before, and it felt like a natural progression for them within the story. But I think overall, it just doesn't quite do enough for me to warrant saying it's a particularly good film and to go see. I don't think it's worth checking out in cinemas. So yeah, that's my review for Zombieland Double Tap, guys. If you do go out to see the film, let me know what you guys thought down in the comments below. Let me know if you guys really enjoyed it or didn't like it so much, or if you thought the humor landed, or if you were like me and thought it was kind of, you know, hit or miss. I'll be really curious. Otherwise, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next review. Thanks very much.